So I've read over 50 books in the past 2 years, and in this video, I'm gonna tier rank the main characters from each book or series I've read these last 2 years. And I'm ranking them based on how much I enjoyed reading them. Honestly, like how memorable and impactful they were as I gradually became a full-fledged reader. And I'm gonna keep everything spoiler-free. Let's get into it. Todd Shelton. Wait, that's a baseball player. We're gonna start off with the book Piranesi, because this is the first book I read last year. And I'm gonna do this in chronological order. So we're kicking things off with the titular character from the book Piranesi. I'm putting him in A tier. That is gonna be like the second team all NBA All-Star. That's kind of what I'm thinking about here, except I'm not only gonna do 5 slots. It's like if the first, second, and third all NBA team had unlimited slots. That's what we're doing. And then C and D are gonna be bench and cut. So a bench player isn't necessarily a bad character. Think about Manu Ginobili. Think about Marcus Smart. Yeah, I love Marcus Smart. And on the topic of love, one of the genres I haven't really read yet is romance. And that's a perfect segue for me to yap a little bit about Book of the Month, who is sponsoring this video. If you don't know what they are, they're a monthly subscription service that sends its members a hardcover fiction book that they choose from a list of 5 to 7 new releases. And I'm gonna tell you what I chose for this month because I wanted to delve into some romance, baby. Boom! Good Spirits by B.K. Borison, and no, that's not me on the cover. That's the ghost of Christmas past, who's potentially falling in love with a woman that he is supposed to haunt. I felt like this one was appropriate for the December holidays. And speaking of holidays, Book of the Month is like the best gift you can give someone who is a reader, whether that person's a friend, family member, or whether that person is just yourself. You get these pristine hardcover books, impeccable book feel, fantastic embossing. There's the Book of the Month logo, and it's fun. You choose from a list of pre-selected bangers, and you can also skip a month for free if nothing catches your eye that month. I also picked up this one. This is a romance fantasy book set in a Roman-inspired world, ruled by merciless vampires. And check out those sprayed edges. Again, fantastic book feel. These are nice books. Ooh! These are sick. Use code HOLLY to get your first book for $5 on bookofthemonth.com. And also, you get a hat. Thank you to Book of the Month, and let's get back to the video. So yeah, Piranesi, A tier. I just thought he was the cutest little guy. Just enjoyed keeping everything tidy. This book is wild if you guys haven't read it. Piranesi, the character, really makes it. You read it in the first person, and so you're getting all of his thoughts, and you're thrust into this story initially and really don't know what's going on, because Piranesi doesn't really know what's going on, and you gradually uncover this mystery through his mind as we keep going. Yeah, shout out my guy Piranesi. Really set the stage for me to become an avid reader. All right, so next is The Other from Piranesi. I'm putting him at B tier because I think he had a lot of mystique to him, and he's really what makes this story interesting. Is like, okay, so Piranesi is a wacky little dude, but what's up with The Other, who seems like a normal dude, and he's kind of like negging Piranesi the whole book. All right, next up is Red Rising, baby, aka my favorite series of all time. I had to limit some of these series to only 5 characters to include, because like I could make a whole tier list of just Red Rising characters, and maybe I will if you guys like this video. So I kind of just chose the 5 most main characters. Darrow is D. Just kidding, he's S tier, baby. I've seen Darrow live a rags to riches story, and we just follow him through his whole journey in the first trilogy, wreaking havoc on this hierarchical system that has been in place. Darrow isn't a perfect protagonist. He is one of those protagonists though that like just wins a lot and is like really smart, but doesn't win all the time, and he doesn't always make the right decision. As you keep reading the series on Red Rising, you see Darrow go through a lot and see his character get developed. Severo. Cut out the Evro, and what are you left with? S tier. Honestly, like I might even put him before Darrow. I'm putting him before Darrow because when he came on the page in Red Rising and Morningstar and Golden Sun, don't know why I said him in that order, like he was so exhilarating to read on the page, and he brings anything from like fist pumping, yes, provides so much comic relief. He's like the Tasmanian devil as a person. He's just a maniac, and it in the best way. Can't say enough good things about Severo. Loved reading Severo. So this is where it gets kind of tough. Cassius, I don't know. I've never really figured it out. I'm gonna slot him at A tier because I can't just put all the Red Rising guys at S tier. He's the cusp of S though. What character development with Cassius. He's an absolute stud. Beautiful man. I can relate. So yeah, me and Cassius kind of go through a lot of those like same problems, which being like really good looking and tall. If I knew like Severo was gonna stir the pot, the scenes I'm reading with Cassius are more like tension building, and sometimes you get the release of tension in action-packed ways. Mustang. I want to put her, I guess I'm gonna put her A tier 2. Starting off hot with these Red Rising characters. Mustang is just also a badass, extremely smart, extremely strategic. I don't want to get into spoilers, so I'm not going to say too much, but we get a lot more of her as the series goes on and just kind of brings a different perspective, different vibe. All right, lastly, we're going to do the Jackal. Yeah, I'm going to put him before Darrow. Just an awesome bad guy. Really just the pinnacle of evil characters, who is just absolutely atrocious. An abomination of a person, is so smart. Again, he has his own little character arc, and it just makes you terrified when he's on the page. All right, we must move on from Red Rising, unfortunately. We're gonna go to Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. We got Jason Dessen, who's the main character. I'm putting Jason Dessen at C tier, just because he's like a Nilla wafer of a person. Like he's like a normal guy, but he's an intelligent guy. There's nothing that exciting about reading him. It's more of the things that go on around him that is interesting. I think for Dark Matter, it's the plot that really gets you going. 2 from Dark Matter is B tier. This guy's just a prick. This guy is a scumbag and just wreaks havoc. When he comes into the picture, it becomes a lot more interesting, that whole book. Daisy Jones from Daisy Jones and the Six. I'm gonna slot her at B tier. That book was so interesting because I thought it was like real for a while. I thought it was about a real band. The book is structured like interviews, so you get kind of like blurbs from different characters, and I was like, oh, Daisy Jones is kind of a badass. I like this woman. So she's not a real person, and this band isn't real. I'm pretty sure she was based off of Stevie Nicks. My sister's a huge Stevie Nicks fan, which makes me have a kind of a soft spot for Daisy Jones. Ryland Grace from Project Hail Mary, which is pretty top of mind because the second trailer for the new movie just dropped. Looks really good. Although it was like 3 minutes long, I feel like I've already seen the whole movie, although I've already read the book, so I don't mind. But if you haven't read the book, I would just stay away from the trailers if you haven't watched them already. I'm going to put Ryland Grace at A tier, right sandwiched in between Cassius and Mustang. We get his first person point of view as he's trying to survive out in space. And the author does such a great job in Ryland's voice, explain all these complicated things in layman's terms, and also like make you smile when he's explaining it. You're not laughing out loud really listening to Ryland a lot, but he gives you a lot of those like chuckles, like kind of soft chuckles to yourself. Expect a lot of that at the hands of Ryland Grace. So just a really likable character. Captain Boulder from Project Hail Mary. If you know, you know. Gonna slot him at, where am I gonna put him? After Darrow. Darrow's getting no respect. I'm going before Darrow, baby. Captain Boulder. He just made Project Hail Mary for me. That is the reason I loved Project Hail Mary and only liked The Martian, is Captain Boulder. Misaki from The Sword of Kaigen. I'm going to slot her at S tier. Yeah, The Sword of Kaigen was an awesome book that I read last year. And Misaki was just a super cool character to read. She's like the stay-at-home mom, essentially. But what people don't know about her, she has a past. And we gradually see that come out and we get a look into it and then we see it play out. Just a character that impacted me and made me excited to read. Mamoru, I'm going to put him at A tier. Second team all NBA. Just another great character from The Sword of Kaigen. He is Misaki's son, living with the expectation from his father to be a great warrior and to learn these skills, this magic that is kind of like Avatar, the Last Airbender magic, like elemental magic, like fire and air. Mamoru's training and he's trying to be the top of his class, and things happen and things need to happen and he needs to do it. And so really those emotional moments in The Sword of Kaigen with these characters hit more than really any emotional moment I had ever read before or even probably watched before. So really good stuff. Speaking of good stuff, let's talk about some shit stuff. Is there an E tier? There isn't. Okay, Sutter, cut. You're off the team. Sutter is from The Spectacular Now. You might know the movie. I kind of liked him in the movie because he's played by Miles Teller, who's a charming actor. In the book, this guy stinks. And I'm just going to leave it at that. I've talked about it enough. He stinks on ice. So this is another Blake Crouch book. Barry. He's going to go right next to the other Blake Crouch main character. He's from Recursion, which I feel like I've seen other people talk about Recursion and just really love it. I think I might have read it too close to reading Dark Matter because it didn't hit that hard for me. I remember thinking though, like, ooh, how are they gonna get out of this one? Like, it was one of those books. So I did like the plot, but just like Blake Crouch's other book, I just feel like the characters are fine, solid. They're not characters that are evoking a ton of emotion out of me because I'm so invested into their stories. And that's why I'm going to put Helena from Recursion right next to him. Will of the Many. This is also pretty topical because The Strength of the Few just came out. I haven't read The Strength of the Few, and I don't remember that much from The Will of the Many in terms of like the characters and what they did. So I only included a few of them in here. I'm gonna put Vis at B tier above the other. Like Red Rising, Will of the Many is about like a hierarchical system, and Vis has a super interesting background. He conceals his identity, entering this like academy to see where he will be placed into the hierarchy. Good at a lot of things, smart. In my head right now, I'm kind of comparing him to Ender from Ender's Game, but like maybe that's just because I just read that. Definitely need to reread this book or listen to some long summary on it though, because it is a chunker and I forget a lot of what happened at this juncture. Gallus, I'm going to put at C tier. I remember a big plot point with him. Think I liked him. I didn't think any of these characters in this book weren't good characters. I just remember thinking it was an awesome book, but this was before I took notes on my reading and I just kind of read and put it down and didn't worry about talking about it. So I don't have a ton of intel to tell you, but I'm going to put them both at C tier for now. Rin in Poppy War, I do remember how she made me feel. I'll put her in the middle. Really capable character that a lot of people don't like to read. She's kind of selfish from what I remember, but super talented and has a reason that she's selfish. Like she wants to prove herself. I remember this book, the magic was super cool and like you could really visualize it. I'm going to put Jang right above her because he was a little bit of comic relief. The question of what is up with that guy made me keep turning the page and being like, I need to get to the bottom of this dude. He's, weird. And then Alton, I'm going to put at B tier actually, just because he has so much aura. Think of the human embodiment of like the Sebastian Telfair high school mixtape. People are like whispering about Alton in the school in this book. We eventually get to meet him, and now I'm remembering a lot of things about Alton, and interesting character. All right, the Martian, Mark Watney, I'm gonna put him at C tier above Jason Desson. Some people aren't gonna like that, but I just thought Ryland Grace did it better. Hadrian Marlowe from Suneater, C tier in front of Watney. Yeah, Hadrian is growing on me. He's on the cusp of B tier. He's right on the edge of the bench. He's a 6-man, not an all-star capable 6-man. He's like the 6-man on the Wizards. The first book, I really didn't like reading him. The second book, he becomes a little bit more likable. So I've only read 2 books in this series. I think I'm actually gonna put him at the bottom of B tier. Hadrian, congrats. You got the call up to be a starter on a team that's about to finish 10-72. Switch from Suneater, he's a cut. He's D tier. It's like Hadrian's BFF. I don't know why Switch is even relevant. I'm sure someone's like in the comments like this. Valka is interesting. I'm putting Valka B tier right behind Vis. She brings a lot of interest into this book. She knows a lot. She artificially modified, which is like taboo in this world, but she owns it like a researcher. So a lot of when we get her scenes, we learn more about the world and the story and what's going on. So Valka, I definitely enjoyed reading. All right, I just realized I can make myself a little bit bigger. Karn Sagara from Suneater. He's going an A tier. Karn Sagara, or as Christopher Rocchio apparently says it, Karn Sagara. Don't like that. It's Sagara. Thank you very much. Every time he came on the page, I was giddy with joy. Hee hee. That was me reading Karn Sagara. I will put the bad guys in the Suneater series up against any other series as bad guys. They are so unique, so scary in mind-bending ways. Charlie from Starter Villain. I like him just a little bit more than Sutter, probably. Wasn't a huge fan of Starter Villain. Cat, I'm gonna put ahead of Charlie just because he's a cat and he could kind of like talk a little bit. He at least provided a little bit of comic relief in a book that was supposed to be funny. Blood Over Brighthaven. This is a book by Emma Wong, who also wrote The Sword of Kaigen with Masaki Imamuro. The main character's name is Sayona. First up on the 3rd team All-NBA. She has a little bit of the vibe of Rin, where she is entering a typically all-male academy and is really trying to prove herself and will really do crazy things to prove herself. And ultimately that may lead to her losing herself along the way or finding herself in the end. Who knows? I'm not going to spoil that for you, but a fun character to read because you don't necessarily agree with what she's doing. Tommel. I'm going to put him ahead of Sayona on the 3rd team. Just a noble guy. Really noble guy. Stand-up guy. I liked Tommel. Renthorn. See, that's how I feel about him. Scary character. Character that I really hated viscerally, so I'm going to put him on B tier. It's probably so random to see Renthorn next to Hadrian. Renthorn is kind of like not even that much of a main character, but feel like he reminds me of Draco Malfoy. A Drop of Corruption / The Tainted Cup. This is the Anna and Din series by Robert Jackson Bennett. Anna is S tier. I'm gonna put her before Misaki because I have 2 books worth of reading Anna and only 1 for Misaki. I'm a big quality time love language guy, so Anna is getting the nod. Just a fun, eccentric character to read. Incredibly talented detective. So this series is like a fantasy series, but is a murder mystery. You know when Anna's on the page, she's about to, slice and dice some clues and investigation. She is essentially Sherlock Holmes. In that same series, Din is her sidekick, who we read his perspective, his POV. Watson to Sherlock Holmes, that is Din. I'm gonna slot him behind Hadrian just because to me in the first book he was sometimes main characters of books or movies are just the straight man. Like I think of like American Pie, like the main character in that versus all the side characters who are so wacky and zany and like funny or whatever. It's kind of this situation with Din. He's essentially the straight man in this series where there's so many wacky and zany characters around him. In the second book, he does get a little bit more personality, which I can appreciate. Malo, though, I really liked Malo. I'm going to put her in front of the other. She comes in the second book and comes in hot, and I instantly liked her. Like I feel like that's pretty rare for a second book or movie, like for you to like a character more than the main character that is introduced, so really enjoyed reading her. Mistborn, one of my favorite series that I read last year. Actually, no, I read it this year. I finished it this year. We got 5 characters from Mistborn. Vin, I'm putting her before Karn Sagara. Vin is an awesome character. She, again, kind of a rags to riches. Didn't realize you could be powerful. You kind of learn your powers type story. Really, really liked Vin. I feel like a kinship towards Vin. It's getting hard now, this tier list. This is another tough one. We got Kelsier. This is where it gets hard. Ooh, do we put him before Vin? Vin is Kelsier's pupil. Yeah, this is tough, man. Oh, this is tough. I gotta put respect on Vin's name. I feel like this might be one up for controversy. At this moment in time, I'm feeling that like this is the right move. Maybe I'll go and fix it at the end. Who knows? Elend. I mean, he's before Renthorn for sure. Yeah, that's fine. Grew on me. A lot of character development with that one. Scythe. I don't know why I said it like that. A tier, man. Ooh, this is so hard, man, to rate these characters. Yeah, I think. I love when Sazed would say, like, I think at the end of sentences. He talks a certain way. He's so wise. He's just like a kind soul. He could have played during the golden years of the Patriots with Bill Belichick. Do your job. That's Sazed. He's about as committed to his job as anyone would be, and I don't know if anyone really cares that much about his job, but he's committed to it. He found his niche and he's stuck to it. The Lord Ruler. I'm gonna put him at the end here. Yeah, behind Karn Sagara. He's got aura. The Lord Ruler's got aura. Bad guy aura. So mysterious. He's got that, like, again, mystique about him throughout this series. Surprised I didn't put any on S tier. I might have to revisit Mistborn. All right, so this is from Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow. I think this is the first book I read this year. Sadie and Sam, I'm gonna put them both at D tier in front of this cat. Really doesn't matter which one's before who. They're both kind of insufferable characters for a lot of it. I did like the book, but I just didn't like the characters. There's a third character who I did like, but these two just were kind of the worst. They had like one moment of friendship and then they feel like chained to it for the rest of their life for some reason. Just don't be friends. So All the Colors of the Dark. This is a thriller, mystery. I don't really know what you call it, but this book was a hard read. Patch, I'm going to put him on the bench. Patch is essentially the main character, and his life goes like that. There's a lot of ups and downs with his life. He's a frustrating character to follow. Like, you really root for him, but there's so much trauma in this book that it's hard to read some of the things causing his life to go a certain way. Saint, from that same book, I'm going to put her in B tier, right behind Siona. Just loved Saint. She was such a good friend. She's the definition of a good friend. Great friend when she didn't need to be, when she could have stopped loving this person, she still loved them. And it was really hard and to read that when there's Saint is a real one, and breaks my heart to even think about some of the things she went through and just these characters went through. Crazy book. Murderbot, from Murderbot. B tier is getting full, man. I'm gonna put him. Murderbot's kind of got Din vibes. I'm gonna put him after Din. Funny character. Kind of a cozy read, the Murderbot series. It's a robot that is like a security guard essentially for people, but he's like a self-conscious, self-aware one of them, and he's supposed to not be. Hacked his internal mainframe, and he has like conscious thoughts, and he's like an introvert. And I keep saying it's actually considered an it in this book. Song of Achilles. Achilles, I'm gonna definitely put him in front of Jason Dessen on C tier. Achilles was fun to follow because you know, if you know anything about Greek mythology, you know what Achilles is and who he was destined to be, and he knows that throughout this book. We read it like a teenage Achilles. He carries himself like he's a prodigy because he is. But we do get the other side of him where he's just kind of like a normal guy. And we get his relationship with Patroclus, who I don't want to spoil anything, but they have a relationship, if you know what I'm saying. And I'm going to say Patroclus is right behind Malo. I really loved Patroclus's character development, and his story went a way that I did not expect. Impressed me, surprised me, and really evoked emotion. Rage of Dragons. Tau puts the rage in Rage of Dragons. Do I like Tau more than Vin and Kelsier? No, I'm gonna put Tau in A tier, somewhere in the middle there. Something happens in his life, and it essentially just puts him on this revenge tour that never ends throughout this book. But you have to appreciate how much this guy wants it. This guy wants to climb to the top of his own book hierarchy, and he will work harder than anyone else to do it. And if you've read this book, you know what I'm saying. A fun character to read. Because of that, he's our main character, and we root for him. Action-packed, and we'll get your heart pumping and get your testosterone flowing. If you want to hit some PRs at the gym, read Rage of Dragons, get in the mind of Tau before your workout. Udwak, who's another character in Rage of Dragons. I'm going to put him after Patroclus. Developed more than I thought he would. Thought he was just kind of a muscle. I don't know, you kind of surprised me. Zuri from the Rage of Dragons. I'm going to put her on C tier behind Achilles. Again, talk about aura. Kellen, Okur. I'll put him right next to Zuri. I've said aura more in this video than I have in any other video, I think, but Kellen Okur has aura, and when he's on the page, I know that some action is going to happen. Some fight scenes are going to happen. Carl from Dungeon Crawler Carl. Gotta put my guy on A tier right next to Rylan Grace. Dungeon Crawler Carl is a lit RPG. It's like a video game fantasy that we follow this character through multiple levels of a dungeon-like reality show. Carl is our main character. He's just like an everyman. He's not necessarily like funny, but the things that happen to him are funny, and his character kind of develops a little bit more as we keep reading. I've only read 2 of the books. I feel like a lot of regular dudes can see themselves in Carl, can kind of empathize with how he's feeling in this weird life pivot that happened to him. Princess Donut, I gotta put right next to Carl. That's his right hand. That's his go-to. Talking cat, probably better at playing this game than Carl is. He loves the spotlight. Posh, and again, is a talking cat, so that there's always funniness in that. They're dynamic. They couldn't be more different. Mordecai, I'm gonna put him on C tier. Right before Jang right there. I'm getting a little bit more Mordecai. I'm getting some Mordecai. Our scenes with Mordecai do give us information, but him as a character, I'm not quite sold on quite yet. Now we're on to Scythe. I've only read the first Scythe book of that series, so take all these with a grain of salt knowing that. I'm gonna put Citra on C tier right before Achilles, and Rowan right after her. Citra is kind of like a goody two-shoes, wants to do really good in class. Rowan is kind of more quiet and reserved, and they're both training to be Grim Reapers. Faraday, I'm gonna put him after Rowan. Definitely get a lot of information, a lot of intel from reading Faraday. Goddard, put on D tier. This guy pissed me off. He was the worst. He was the woke. Hated Goddard. I did listen to a lot of this book, so maybe it was the audiobook narrator, but this guy just made me cringe. Morrie from Tuesdays with Morrie. How can it be anything but S tier? This guy's got pearls of wisdom for me. Just an absolute gem of a man. Now, Jade City. This is another epic fantasy, but it's more of like an urban fantasy. I've only read the first Jade City. I just bought Jade War, but I haven't read it yet. Hilo is gotta be A tier. I guess he's after Piranesi. I feel like that might change as I keep reading, but right now he's there. He does have some character development that I end up like, oh, this guy's a stud. The magic in this book is really interesting. It is like through Jade that they wear, and they kind of get enhanced senses, essentially. These 3 characters that I'm talking about are people that can use those powers. They're called Green Bones, and they're all siblings. Lon, I'm gonna put on B tier. It's so weird seeing Renthorn on here. I don't even know why I included him in this list. He's just so random. I'm gonna put you after Din before Murderbot. Yeah, I really liked Lon. Humble guy. Maybe not the most exciting character to follow, but you can kind of like empathize with this situation. Shay. See, I like Shay a lot. She has a more personality than Lan. I'm going to put her in front of Lan. I feel like she's going to kind of throw a wrench in this story. Shay is coming back from living in a different place and she's moving home. And I think Shay is going to be a big player in the No Peak clan. All right, The Road. Dad. There, I guess. Son. There, I guess. Went through a lot in that apocalypse. Didn't seem fun. Wasn't even that fun to read. So Chain Gang All-Stars. This is a really good book. This book is like if people who were sentenced to like 25 years or more in jail could actually enter a lottery to be released, except that the lottery was them having to fight other prisoners to death. And if you survive for 3 years, you're released. But you have to fight to the death like 50 times with weapons, and it's all televised, by the way, and people watch it like it's UFC. I'm gonna put her at before Shay. Hurricane Stax. I really liked Stax, but she was like way more of a personality figure than Thurwar. Hurricane Stax is the life of the party. Thurwar is almost like a coach, and Hurricane Stax is the best player on that team in a way. Simon A. Craft. This guy scared the daylights out of me, and I gotta put him in A tier because of that. Man, the chapters with him were some of the most jaw-dropping. My jaw fell through the floor of this room and went all the way down into planet Earth when I read some of the chapters with Simon J. Craft, one in particular. It was so painful to read. That alone has to net him into A tier. Man, is Severo gonna hold out on S tier? This is I haven't really like visually seen this. I'll have to like do a quick sweep at the end. Is Severo going to be my number one character? He could be. We're on Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. So we're going to start with Yumi. More like Yumi because she's in B tier. I'm going to put her in front of Patroclus. I really liked reading Yumi. She's very like type A. And she's forced into a fish out of water experience where she has to not be that kind of personality type. She has to leave her little bubble of what she knows. I'm going to put Painter right next to her. Similar but different. They're from two different backgrounds and they both have that same experience of being like fish out of water. Painter, I think, is more of like the comic relief in a way. I don't know. They were both kind of funny. This book almost read to me like an early 2000s rom-com. It just had that vibe to it, and it's a fantasy book with like monsters and stuff. So The Woman, I just got Frankie on here. I'm gonna put her at C tier. She's just proven people wrong a lot of the times. Really empathize with her. It was a little bit frustrating to read her because I felt like I got too much Frankie because we only get her POV, and I would have really liked to see her friend's POV because it seemed like they handled things a little bit differently, and it would have been nice to see how people in the war and coming back from the war handled it, like just getting different perspectives instead of just one. All right, so this is the First Law Trilogy by Joe Abercrombie. We got 5 characters to plop onto this tier list. I'm currently reading the last book of the trilogy. I'm about 200 pages in, so just know that as I'm rating these. Logan Ninefingers honestly became one of my favorite characters. He is the glue guy of glue guys, and oh yeah, he's the bloody knife, and he can just go sicko mode. He can go Super Mario power-up mode, and you better not be in his way when it happens. Say one thing about Logan Ninefingers. Say he's S tier. Glocta. This might be a hot take, but I'm putting him behind Mamoru. Nah, in front of Mamoru. I feel like everyone thinks Glocta is, like everyone says Glocta is their favorite character. I do really like Glocta, and he makes me laugh, but something about him is holding me back from like loving him as much as I thought I could. He's almost like the Severo of this series, but he's way more evil, probably. And I think that might be why I don't love him as much. But you know, when he's on the page, you know, blood may be shed and answers may be given. So he's definitely A tier. Baez, the first of the Magi. I'm gonna put him at B tier, right behind Malo. Can't put my finger on Baez, and I think a lot of people can't either. He seems like just like a wise old man in one second, and then he seems like this nefarious guy in the other. But I do know that a lot of what's going on in terms of the magic in this world, find out that through Baez, the first of the Magi. Magi, magic, he can do magic. So inherently interesting because of that. Pharaoh, I'm gonna put her at B tier. You know, it's kind of weird to rate like Pharaoh versus Daisy Jones. I'm gonna put her, no, I like her more than Alton. Oh yeah. After Udwak probably. As I keep reading Pharaoh, I keep liking her more and more. And in this new book, I actually really enjoy her POV. I think she adds a totally different element to this book. She's probably equally as angry at the world as Tao from Rage of Dragons. She's also on a huge revenge tour. Giselle Dan Luthar. I love reading Giselle, man. I think he's hilarious. First book, I thought he was hilarious. He thinks he's better than everyone else because he's so much of a jerk. It was just so funny to read. Joe Abercrombie kind of explains his thinking. The second book, we get a ton of character development. And in the third book, I'm loving reading his point of view. He could be S tier next to Logan by the end of the series. For now, I'm keeping him in A tier. All right, Billy Summers. I'm going to put Billy and Alice in D tier. This just wasn't my favorite book. It was the first Stephen King book I had read. It's like a contemporary thriller about a retired hitman for one last job. Billy was kind of just meh to me. I don't know. I think I wasn't a huge fan of this book in general, so I'm not going to rate the characters super high. They both get cut. And so a Stephen King book I really enjoyed was The Life of Chuck. But I'm actually going to put Chuck at D tier because he just kind of danced one time. I think a lot of the magic of the book was in the writing, and the character of Chuck wasn't anything special, and he wasn't supposed to be. I think a lot of it was about finding beauty in the normalcy and redundancy and how everyone has layers of themselves. So Chuck isn't meant to be this spectacular person, and that's what makes the book good. But again, Chuck isn't a spectacular person, so he's D tier. Stormlight Archive. I've only read The Way of Kings, so I've only read one of the books. Again, know that as I'm rating them. Kaladin. Gotta be tippity top of A tier. Yeah, right there is fine. Right next to Princess Donut. Kaladin right next to Princess Donut. I know I'm gonna love him by the end of the series. Reminds me a little bit of a cleaner, nicer Logan. Nine Fingers in a way. Like, he is a glue guy. He rounds up the troops, and he can do some crazy stuff when provoked. Shallan, I'm going to put her at B tier for now, behind Siona. She brings a little bit of comic relief, a little bit of attitude to this series. I feel like she's the most, like, normal one of the characters we read. Like, she could be a person today versus these other characters are like a little bit more like fantasy world like. But all these characters have some relation to magic and Stormlight. The magic that we kind of get in Shallan's POV is really, really interesting. I'm excited to keep reading this series. I just wish they weren't such a big commitment. Like 1,000 pages is just tough to sign up for. Dalinar, I'm going to put him next to Shallan. I guess I'll put him ahead. I liked reading Dalinar. You know, he's got a lot going on. He kind of is also like a stoic character, but we do get the behind the scenes of his troubles. Scythe. Oh, man. You know, when he's coming on this scene, things are going down. Some of my favorite scenes in that book. It's just like, he's just gonna come fuck shit up. And I'm sure we're gonna learn more about him, but for now, he just comes on the scene and just fuck shit up and leaves. Very interested and intrigued in Seth's storyline. Maybe I'm letting my testosterone in fight scenes influence this too much, because like Scythe and Simon J. Kraft are kind of just there because of how much destruction they wrought. So maybe I should bump them down to B tier. I don't know. The Housemaid, Millie and Nina. I'm gonna put Millie and Nina right next to. No, Daisy Jones is ahead of them. Oh, they're getting bumped. These two are getting bumped down. Yeah, no. Bumped all the way down B tier. Sorry, get bumped, Millie and Nina. Get absolutely bumped. Yeah, get bumped. Why did I put Renthorn in here? Every time I see him, it's a jump scare. Yeah, Millie and Nina. Nina's got a slight edge because of the kind of mystery around what's going on in the Housemaid. She's the center of it. Millie is just the main character kind of going through this, and, you know, she just seems normal. Yeah, I'm going to put Millie in C tier. Yeah, Millie can't be. Yeah, Millie's getting bumped. Millie's stock is falling right now. Oh no, Millie. Yeah, you can be in front of Barry. Yeah, Nina's down there too. Who am I kidding? I guess you're more interesting than Jason Dessen. Yeah, they're both C tier. Good book though. Really enjoyed the book. I think that's why I was like, maybe they'll be B tier. But I also really enjoyed Dark Matter and Jason Dessen C tier. So I guess I shouldn't let that influence me. Bug from Blacktop Wasteland, who has one of the most fun names to say, Beauregard. Yeah, I'll put him in front of Patroclus. So Bug was a getaway driver for like criminals. He can drive with the best of them. The issue is he's trying to be like a good dad. He's trying to like be a family man. But when some financial troubles hits, he begrudgingly turns back into being a getaway driver for these couple criminals. He's a smart dude. He's a badass. Yeah, I really liked him as a character. He's one of the more enjoyable parts of that book. Versus Reggie and Ronnie, I'm just putting them together because they're twins. They kind of piss me off. I'll put them after Millie. All right, so Addie LaRue is the next book. These guys are all gonna be D tier. For me, it kind of boils down to, like, Addie had 300 years to kind of figure out how to live with the curse of living forever, and just seems to be making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again. I'm not saying, like, I could do any better, but as, like, a reader, it just felt really repetitive. Luke, ugh, hated Luke. Oh, he pissed me off. He's down here. Hated Luke. And Henry, I liked just a little bit more than Addie. Just a smidge more. Probably because we got a little bit less of him. This is another book where there wasn't really characters that I loved to read, and because of the nature of the book and knowing that anyone Addie meets is going to forget her as soon as she leaves, we can't really connect with the other characters aside from a few of the characters in the book. All right, Ender's Game. We got Ender. I'm going to put him before Simon J. Kraft. Ender is good at everything. He's smart and he's strong and he can outwit anyone. He's strategic and he's like 11. And he's just the best at everything. So, A tier. Peter in Ender's Game, I'm going to put him at C tier before Nina. He was a nuisance, Peter. His story arc was out of left field to me. I was just scratching my head with a lot of what was going on with Peter and Val in general. I'm going to put Val a little bit ahead of Peter just because I liked her more. So, A Short Stay in Hell was a short book I read. It was like a thriller horror book that was like 100 pages long, and I really loved it, but the main character is going to be C tier for me. Again, it's one of those things that anyone could be the main character and it would be the same book, essentially. So it's not necessarily anything about the book. It's just the character doesn't have to be a totally memorable person with all these unique attributes for the story to be good. Hollis from the 5-Star Weekend, I'm going to put her right above Soren just because she had some character traits to her. She was a really good cook. She's kind of like a social media content creator, so I can resonate. She's great at putting on an absolute banger of a weekend. She's a great party host. The Last Unicorn. This was a pleasant surprise that I read this year. The unicorn in The Last Unicorn doesn't necessarily need to be interesting to me. It's interesting because it's a unicorn. Schmendrick, on the other hand, like, started off kind of annoying and then he won me over. He's somewhere here in B tier. You know, I'm not married to this, like, ranking in B tier here, but he's definitely B tier. He provided a little bit of comic relief. Molly Grew, I'll put her above Hollis. I don't know. I don't have, like, anything to really say about Molly Grew. The Red Bull. I mean, there's not much to say about him, but he brought, like, action scenes into the story, which was fun. I'll put him there. All right, Pet Semetary. We got 2 books left. Really loved this book. This was the first book I read that was like, okay, I get why Stephen King is the king of horror. Really, really creepy. Lewis is the main character. He was okay. I'm going to put him behind the Will of the Many couple there. No. I liked Will. I liked him. Let's see. I'll put him right here behind Ren. It was really interesting to be in his mind throughout all that, but I didn't necessarily like him as a character. I think with this book, like, Judd provided a lot more intrigue for me. I'm going to put Judd before Sun. I might need to clean these up. Oh, yeah, and then I forgot this. So, Bank Robber. This is from Anxious People. I'm going to put this person at the end of C tier. Anxious People, great book, but I couldn't, like, figure out what character to really put on here, so I just used the Bank Robber. Funny book. It's a lot of characters involved, and so that's why it was hard to pick just one. I'm actually going to put them ahead of Hollis. All right, so I'm going to do some moving around now. I got to do one last, like, look at it. Severo at the top of S tier feels a little bit crazy. Jackal number 2, huh? I might have to put Captain Boulder behind Logan. Cassius, you get the nod, buddy. You're going to A tier. You're going to A tier, buddy. Come on. What are we kidding? Carl, I want you there so bad. I might need to read a couple more books before he gets there. This is tough. The Mistborn group is tough. Simon J. Kraft might be high. I can't say he's A tier. I can't say Simon J. Kraft is A tier, right? All right, he's bumping down. Tommel, Siona, I like that. Dalinar, yeah, Shallan. Alton's a little bit high. Put him behind Ellen. Put him next to Renthorn. Renthorn's definitely high, too. Who am I kidding? Renthorn's getting the bump. He's I don't even know why he's on this list. C tier is where it gets a little messy here. It's kind of where things fall apart. I guess Renthorn can go there. Judd Crandall, get bumped up, buddy. Congrats. Yeah, this is fine. All right, this is the final list. Check it out in all its glory. Severo, number 1. I mean, no surprise. Red Rising just taking over the number 1 seed. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I feel about this, but this was a hard exercise to do. I'm not going to lie. If you're still watching, appreciate it. Let me know where I messed up. Let me know where I hit. Let me know where I missed. But yeah, just keep in mind, this is how I feel on November 21st, 2025 at 7:52 p.m. I could feel differently at 8 o'clock. So this is just kind of fun to do. Generally, I think this is probably where these characters land, but there are so many more characters from some of these series that I wish I could add on, like Red Rising specifically, and even Mistborn. Let me know if you guys want me to make a Red Rising tier list like this one, because that could be a fun video on its own. All right, that's everything. Whoa!